evening, I'm Ebony Brandon. Today is Wednesday, 20th December 2017. This is the SKN News Now Evening Edition. In the headlines tonight, nationally, the NRP's silence following their election defeat on Monday is fueling speculation that a major announcement is on the horizon. Internationally, the Amtrak derailment investigators suspect speeding and distraction may have played a role in the deadly tragedy. And in sport, the Flow 4GK on Rockets will compete in the 2018 CONCACAF Club Championship. We've got the details of these stories, the weather and Carib update all ahead in tonight's edition of SKN News Now. The silence of the Nevis Reformation Party following its election loss on Monday is fueling speculation that a major announcement from the party could be on the horizon. If this is the case, it's likely that the announcement would have to do with the future of the NRP and also very possibly a change of leadership. This is further supported by NRP insider information that leader of the NRP, Honorable Joseph Parry, informed his party's executive on Tuesday that he would be making a statement. This has not yet occurred. It's also very unusual that almost 48 hours following an election that no statement or word of thanks has been made by any of the 5 NRP candidates to have contested Monday's Nevis Island Assembly elections. This afternoon, social media was abuzz with the news that Honorable Joseph Parry had resigned as his party's leader as a result of the 4-1 loss to political opponents, the CCM. If true, this would bring to a close an NRP chapter spanning a quarter of a century with Joseph Parry at the helm. While senior members of the NRP have declined to comment on the truth of this and have only said that a formal statement is forthcoming, NRP Deputy Leader Hensley Daniel has said that the 47-year-old organization is re-evaluating its position following the crushing defeat and will very likely be making major changes. Daniel suggested that these changes could include new candidates and a new leader. He added that new thinking and a new way of doing things would be critical. Before the week closes, however, it's very likely that something formal will be put out by the NRP and Mr. Parry, who will now become the longest-serving elected member of the Nevis Island Assembly by virtue of his recent re-election. Meanwhile, during a brief ceremony Tuesday, Honorable Mark Brantley was sworn in as the new Premier of Nevis. He's the 4th Premier in the island's history. During the well-attended ceremony, Mr. Brantley was presented with his instruments of appointment by Her Honour Marjorie Morton, Acting Deputy Governor-General of St. Kitts and Nevis. The oaths of allegiance and secrecy were administered by Her Ladyship the Honourable Justice Pauletta Lance. Very shortly, Premier Brantley and his cabinet will be sworn into office and take up the business of running the affairs of the Nevis Island administration over the next 5 years. Following this, all eyes will turn to the new Premier and his administration for the budget rollout in January, where he will indicate his administration's financial plans and set the tone for the CCM's first year in office. The budget may also provide insight into the direction in which the new Premier of Nevis is likely to steer his government over its term in office. In other news, more than 50 persons from across the civil service have completed a 3-day training program in protocol. The training opportunity was organized by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Aviation in collaboration with the Office of the Prime Minister. The facilitators were Senior Jamaican Protocol Officers, Chief of State Protocol Ambassador Eleanor Phoenix, and Director of State Protocol Nicholas Horton. Both are attached to the Office of the Prime Minister in Jamaica. Ambassador Felix and Mr. Horton are professionals with more than 3 decades combined experience in the area of protocol. Over the 3-day period, the protocol experts partnered with the government of St. Kitts and Nevis to lend their expertise in this critical area of diplomacy. At the end of training, participants were expected to have increased their protocol capacity in offering services to high-level officials, guests of the government, and other related events, and also equip themselves with skill sets that will heighten their awareness of protocol. The training covered topics including diplomatic protocol, precedents and official forms of address and titles, protocol and security, leadership and man management, social and cultural etiquette, and intercultural communication. And finally, this evening, in National Developments, the Racing and Gaming Services Social Committee, RGSSC, has continued its annual tradition of making a donation toward a worthy cause at Christmas time. President of the RGSSC, Delisa Lescott, explained during a brief ceremony on Tuesday that this year the beneficiaries of the donation are two women who, along with their families, lost their homes to fires.
Miss Jane Murray, a resident of Challengers, who shared a home with her family, including grandchildren, and Miss Andy Sweeney, a resident of St. Johnston Avenue, who shared a home with her 12-year-old son, were unfortunate victims of fires, which totaled their homes on separate occasions. Despite these tragedies, the committee is very happy that no lives were lost. There is no amount of words that can replace anything that was lost, but our Racing and Gaming Services Social Committee is more than happy and willing in helping these families with a fresh start. Both families are being presented with food hampers valued more than 2,000 East Caribbean dollars, as well as shopping vouchers in the sum of 1,125 East Caribbean dollars each, redeemable at TDC Group of Companies, and shopping vouchers in the sum of 1,120 East Caribbean dollars each, redeemable at Best Buy. We hope that these items being presented this morning can uplift all the families and certainly bring life and light to their Christmas holidays.
The 11th annual donation in 2016 by the RGSSC was made to the Cardin Home, which received a number of items to aid in the daily operation of the facility. The RGSSC is a non-profit organization which raises funds from year to year in order to give back to individuals and organizations in need of assistance. Stay with us. Still to come in this evening's news presentation, International Developments. The investigation into the deadly Amtrak derailment in Washington in the United States is now focusing on whether the train was going too fast and if the engineer may have been distracted. Claudia Cowan filed this report.
So many questions still in this ongoing investigation, but right now investigators with the National Transportation Safety Board are focusing on a number of things, including speed and the possibility that the engineer who was driving the train may have been distracted. They say the emergency brake was automatically engaged, that the engineer did not activate it manually. Now this comes amid reports that the train was going 50 miles over the speed limit and that the engineer was not alone in the locomotive.
There were two people in the cab, the engineer and a conductor who was getting experience and familiarizing himself with the territory. The actual conductor, as there is one on every train, was in the actual passenger section at the time of the accident.
Federal officials say the engineer was qualified and had been running this train in the area in the last couple of weeks. All 5 crew members were hospitalized. The NTSB hopes to speak to all of them in the next few days. We're also learning more about 2 of the 3 people who were killed. Jim Hamray and Zach Wilhoit were longtime buddies and passionate advocates for passenger trains and public transportation. Friends say they were excited to be on the maiden voyage of Amtrak's new high-speed service between Seattle and Portland, and how ironic and sad that these 2 men who devoted so much of their lives to promoting railway service perished in a train accident and just 1 week before Christmas. The mangled train cars that fell onto the freeway have been hauled off to a secure facility where they'll be further examined as part of the ongoing investigation. But busy Interstate 5 behind me remains closed while investigators finish their work here and make sure it's safe to reopen to traffic.
German Chancellor Angela Merkel has admitted mistakes were made before and after last year's attack on a Christmas market in Berlin. Speaking on the anniversary of the truck attack that killed 11 people, she said both security and victim support were lacking, but relatives of the victims still feel Merkel should be doing more. Dominic Kane reports from Berlin.
Normally, this is a place to celebrate the Christmas season. On Tuesday, it was a place of sadness and solidarity, shared by the bereaved from this tragedy and Germany's political leaders. The emotion of the moment, palpable. A minute's silence, a mark of respect to those who died. Although Angela Merkel stood shoulder to shoulder with victims' relatives, they do not think she's done enough since the tragedy. In a letter to the German magazine Der Spiegel, they spelt out their grievance, saying, "The attack was not only aimed at the victims directly, it was aimed at Germany. It's a question of respect, decency, and technically it's self-evident that you as head of government should acknowledge to us the loss of our family members caused by an act of terror." The Chancellor did hold her first meeting with the families on Monday and had this statement after the minute's silence.
Und für mich, und das sage ich für die ganze Bundesregierung, heißt es,
For me, and I'm speaking on behalf of the entire government, we will work to improve what didn't go well and do everything humanly possible, not only to ensure safety, but also to give those whose lives have been destroyed or affected a chance to go back to their lives again, as well as they can.
The problem for Angela Merkel and her government is, despite such public pronouncements, the families of the victims still have grave concerns about Germany's current security situation, and some analysts believe that parts of the German federal intelligence system really need reform. Specifically, where it concerns how the government deals with those it believes may be plotting violent attacks.
The thing that is still lacking is certainly, and that's also a structural issue, is the lack of resources, the lack of staff, and the lack of qualified staff who work on cases actually watching potential terrorists and connecting the dots.
At the site of last year's atrocity, one of the new features is a scar in bronze that's been laid across the ground, meant as a permanent reminder of the hurt attacker Anis Amri caused his victims and society at large. Tuesday has been a day of strong emotions, where those touched by this tragedy gathered to pay their respects, in the hope that the ordeal they and their loved ones endured is one no other families will suffer in future. The question for the government is whether it can ensure that.
Still to come in this evening's news presentation, sport, the weather and Carib update. The Confederation of North Central America and Caribbean Association Football, CONCACAF, on Tuesday announced the expanded Caribbean Club Championship, a two-tier regional club championship representing the newest addition to the Confederation's club competitions platform. The Tier 1 Caribbean Club Championship, which will kick off on January 31st next year, will feature 8 professional clubs from 4 member associations, the Dominican Republic, Haiti, Jamaica and Trinidad and Tobago. The Tier 2 competition will feature 12 clubs from 12 Caribbean member association leagues that do not presently meet the minimum CONCACAF club licensing requirements. Together, the new regional qualifying championships will serve as the Caribbean qualifying tournament for the Scotiabank CONCACAF League and the Scotiabank CONCACAF Champions League, and open the door for wider participation of Caribbean clubs in Confederation Championships. The 8 clubs set to participate in the 2018 edition of the Tier 1 Caribbean Club Championship are Atlantico FC, Club Atletico Pantoja, Racing FC, Real Hope FA, Arnett Gardens FC, Portmore United FC, Central FC, and W Connection. The initial Tier 2 competition is scheduled to begin the first week of April 2018. The participating clubs are SV Deportivo Nacional, Weymouth Wales FC, Real Rincon, Bodden Town FC, RKSV Centro Dominguito, Hard Rock Sports Club, USR Saint Rose, Ghana Defence Force, Club Franciscain, Keon FC, Avenues United FC, and Inter Moengotapo. The winner of the Tier 1 2018 CONCACAF Caribbean Club Championship will qualify directly to the 2019 Scotiabank CONCACAF Champions League, while the runner-up and third-place finishers will qualify for the 2018 Scotiabank CONCACAF League. The fourth-place finisher will face the winner of the Tier 2 competition in a playoff match to determine the third club that will represent the Caribbean in the 2018 Scotiabank CONCACAF League. The draw for the Tier 1 competition will take place on Thursday, December 21st at the CONCACAF headquarters in Miami, Florida. We now have a look at this evening's weather forecast. Skies tonight will be fair to partly cloudy with a 20% or slight chance of showers across St. Kitts and a 40% or moderate chance of showers across Nevis, mainly after midnight. Seas are moderate with wave heights of 1.2 to 1.8 meters or 4 to 6 feet and occasionally reaching 2.1 meters or 7 feet. Cautions remain in effect for small craft operators and beachgoers, particularly on the Atlantic side of the islands. Winds are east-northeasterly ranging between 8 to 16 miles per hour with high gusts over open waters. The sea level pressure is 1016.1 millibars or 30 inches. Sunrise tomorrow is set for 6:36 a.m. And that wraps up this evening's news presentation. We leave you, however, with a recap of this evening's top stories. Nationally, the NRP's silence following their election defeat on Monday is fueling speculation that a major announcement could be coming. Internationally, the Amtrak derailment investigators suspect speeding and distraction may have played a role in the deadly tragedy. And in sport, the Flow 4GK Rockets will compete in the 2018 CONCACAF Club Championship. Thanks so much for tuning in this evening. I've been your presenter, Ebony Brandon. Still to come this evening, Carib Update, followed by DJ Yardi. Goodbye.